Hello. James Lott Jr., I am recording this as a response to your excellent video about Dora Mae. My name is Kip Carr, and I am a huge Dallas fan. Have been one since day one. So you raised a really, really good question, and yeah, I think that you're exactly right. Pat Colbert did predate Diane Carroll on Dynasty, and yeah, it was really something to see a professional African American, albeit in a very, very small role, in a recurring part, because as you pointed out, she had a name, so it wasn't like she was an extra. Um, and I've got a couple of ideas. I think I'll be curious to see what what comes from your search of Dora Mae. But I'd like to know where all of the girls from the Oil Barons Club, Cassie. I'm not sure what her name was, but um, I think that's really intriguing. If perhaps maybe she would have written a book. I would have liked to have seen Dora Mae pop back up in the Dallas reboot, because they did not recognize like the two reunion movies as canon, but because it went off, I don't know if we need to be strict about that. And I'm not sure if Dora Mae came back for any of the reunion movies either. I don't think so. But I think that's a really, really good question. Now, I don't know if you found Rosanna Christensen that played Teresa. The most interesting thing about her is that she was on the Jeffersons in one of those episodes that Florence spun off into her own sitcom, Checking In. And so George and Louise were looking to try to find a replacement for Florence. George had his idea, and it was an older Swedish woman, if I'm not mistaken, or German woman, and then Louise picked Rosanna Christensen's character, and I cannot think of what her name was, but she was actually on the Jeffersons at the same time she was doing Dallas. But because her part on Dallas is just like Dora Mae, I don't think it really conflicted at all. It would have been interesting had Checking In, Marla Gibbs' spinoff, had become a hit, and what would have happened to the maid situation. I think they probably would have written Teresa off from Dallas. So, but the other professional African American that I can think of in the original Dallas was the FBI agent, J.A. Preston, that was responsible for shutting down the original Ewing Oil. And of course, J.A. Preston, he did a lot of episodic television and movie appearances, but he's probably best known as Tisha Campbell's father, Mr. Waters, I think, in Martin. It was him and Judy Elder that played recurring. They came on every now and then as Gina's parents, but I don't know if there was any other black professionals on Dallas. I'm sure they were. I mean, out of 13 years, I'm very, very certain that they were. But those are the two that pops up in my head. And then, of course, in Dallas, the early years, Bill Duke had a character that struck oil with Jock Ewing, and I had always wondered what happened with this guy's descendants. I think his name was Seth. I would assume that they still have millions. I think for continuity's sake, it would have been nice for the descendants to have been depicted in maybe the reboot. I mean, they brought back Carter McKay's grandson. Then they could have brought back Bill Duke's, brought back people that would have represented the family that Bill Duke portrayed in Dallas the early years. So, but anyway, thank you for your video. I liked it a lot. And you raised some really good, some good and meaningful feedback. And it's good to see people of color who were huge Dallas fans like myself. I know growing up, Dallas, you know, we watched that other program that came on before Dallas, and I'm purposely not saying the name, and Dallas, and then we watched Falcon Crest. And now, of course, Knots Landing, which of course Dallas is spun off from, had African American characters in a bit more prominent role. You had Lynn Moody and the late Larry Riley that played the Williams couple, the Williams family that moved into the cul-de-sac. But then they weren't really central to the storyline. But that was probably the difference, the biggest difference between Knots Landing and Dallas, among everything else. And then, of course, and I'm pretty sure that Lynn Moody and Larry Riley came onto Knots Landing after the two shows kind of like split apart, because as I'm sure everybody remembers, when they decided to bring Patrick Duffy's character back in Dallas, it really messed up the storyline in Knots Landing. And so I think they just decided to keep Bobby Ewing dead in Knots Landing. And after that point, there was never any additional crossover appearances by any Knots Landing cast members, except of course when Ted Shackelford and Joan Van Ark did Conundrum, the Dallas finale episode. But that really was not, I mean, that was a fantasy episode, so that really doesn't count. So that's probably, you know, the other glaring thing that I find the differences between Dallas and Knots Landing. I don't remember seeing any African American staff working on the ranch. I'm not sure if they were, so I'd like to go back and look and see even in the background, and maybe if they had some black extras. But now I do remember, I think in some of the early like in the miniseries, they did have, I guess, an older African American woman that I think was catering. I think she was a caterer, and I think she was on maybe the very first Ewing barbecue. I think she kind of catered the Ewing barbecue, and she may have appeared on another maybe another episode, and then that was it. That's a really good question, and I would be really fascinated to see what kind of responses that you get. All right, so take care and keep doing what you're doing.